Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Age of Agility podcast. My name is Shannon Curran, and I am your host. We are super excited today for our guest. She is a supply chain enthusiast, operations program manager with over 9 years experience improving customer metrics by reducing costs. And she is also the head of industry trends with the Circular Supply Chain Network. So that's what we're going to talk to her about today. So I'm really excited to welcome Sneha Kumari as our guest for today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Shannon. I'm super excited to talk about something I'm very, very passionate about, representing Circular Supply Chain Network here, and also echoing the feelings and leadership of my founder, Deborah Dahl. So super excited about talking about this. Just a quick introduction, you did introduce me. Really quick, but yeah, I have been in supply chain quality doing this for more than 10 years now in manufacturing and energy industries, and my supply chain is my first love. So that's where I want to grow my career towards. But I did have an awakening, I would say, about a year and a half back or 2 years back, when I actually learned that, hey, I love supply chain, I'm leading that, but I actually could create positive impact around myself, my environment, and supply chain could actually be phenomenal in driving that. And then came the learning of what is circular economy and how supply chains can be so powerful to make it happen. And here I am working with my founder and creating a powerful community wherein we bring leaders across different industries across the globe, talking about their initiatives, their ideas, and how do we really educate everyone about what circular economy is and why supply chains play a key role in making that happen. So super excited for this episode.
Awesome. All right. So for our audience, if they know nothing about circular supply chain, can you explain a little bit about the circular economy at first, and then how supply chains can really make a big impact within the circular economy? As the expert, let us know, like from the beginning, like how would you explain this at a dinner party to somebody?
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely. I would actually like to explain it the way I was explained about it. And so I'm hoping to make it as simple as possible, but keep your questions coming. Right now, what we look at, the model that every industry functions at is we have a supplier, we make goods. So we take products from our supplier, we make it into some products, and then we deliver it to our customers. And while we do all of this, we create some waste. What happens to that waste? Where does it go? I don't think many of us here really know about what happens to it. But just by understanding what I just said, looks like it's a line. It's linear. We are taking, making, and wasting in this process while we are delivering to our customers. And we have been in this model for so long. We had industrial revolution, which wasn't necessarily very bad because we started making use, because almost like it was very beneficial for middle class, wherein we could afford more stuff. But in this process, we stopped realizing that did we need all that stuff? Wherever you are, all our listeners, look around you, and I guarantee you 110%, you will find things that you have around you sitting as inventory, and you're not using it as much. So how becoming better stewards of materials, how to convert this whole linear economy and make it circular, bring that waste back into your process. Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be beneficial for businesses too? Because now you're not only delivering to your customers, you're actually not harming your environment while you are doing so. So that's how I explain what a circular economy is, and why, because you understood this process, and I was speaking about suppliers and then logistics in between. This is why I say supply chains are such an important piece and will prove phenomenal in making circular economy really happen there. And of course, us making better stewards of the materials that are dwindling right now, and be better at taking care of our environment.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that what really resonated with me when you first explained this concept was the sort of multi-pronged impact here. So you have waste, which is creating environmental impact, but it's also really creating cost to the business too, right? So there's things that are not being utilized. There is literal waste to the business, right? So can you explain a little bit on the concept of monetization when it comes to waste and how this can happen cross industries? It can happen within your own business. I think that's a really interesting concept here too. If the environmental impact is not enough to get people to really think about the importance of this, what is sort of the bottom line impact as well?
Actually nailed the question by just using that word monetizing. So many of us, if we are supply chain practitioners or even in operations, you would have heard about lean concepts, which is very popular. Toyota has been really leading this concept for a long time in the industry. But if you've heard about it, you would have heard what lean is, which is about eliminating waste. While on the contrary, circular economy or circularity talks about monetizing waste, which is not only, as you said, the only benefit of it is not just, not harming our environment, but also running a profitable business. Because that's what industries are, they exist for, because they want to run a profitable business. So monetizing waste. Now, right now we have, if you do a process mapping, a value stream mapping, you have value streams and then you have waste. But in circular economy, you would have two value streams: primary value streams and secondary value streams. Secondary value streams are actually the waste that any industry produces. What are we going to do about it? We're going to bring that waste back to our supply chain. And there are numerous ways and opportunities for every single industry, whether you're in food, whether you're in electronics, you're automotive, you're manufacturing, you always have the opportunity to create a channel to bring that waste back into your process, or find another industry who could actually use your waste. So for example, if you're a food industry and you're doing, say, you have some fruits that, become a waste eventually in your process, that could actually be used by a manufacturer who would manufacture bags or purses. And that material, that waste from your process actually became useful for someone else. And that's exactly what we want to do with our supply chains. Where we want to go is find that database, make that secondary value stream. I won't call it waste. Secondary value streams, aka waste in today's terms, be more accessible to all the industries. So it doesn't mean that I am in food industry and I have to look into this. I think we need to all talk to each other and see how we can bring that back. Because again, as I said, materials are dwindling. We will be forced to get into this model at some day. Why not start now?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think, so this gets to the question of why wouldn't a company or organization do this, right? Like, why are so many supply chains still stuck in a linear model? What are you seeing, certain industries that are more sort of ahead or behind? Are you seeing, so what are the big challenges that people are facing to implement a more circular approach to their supply chain?
I would say that COVID was definitely a huge learning lesson. We have had the biggest, enormous supply chain breakdowns and bottlenecks that we would have seen in the past decade or so. I'm sure it started with the whole, especially in the United States, we started with tariffs and we saw the ports, logging with logistics, and then COVID hit. And then this whole, this whole concept of sustainability and actually circular economy started hogging the limelight, because now everyone started realizing, we are importing from countries far across the globe, and now I have bottlenecks. I'm not able to meet my lead times to my customers, and how do I solve this whole domino effect that's going on? So COVID definitely came with a lot of learnings for a lot of industries, and made a lot of concepts take the center stage, like reshoring, nearshoring, and of course circular economy. But to answer your question, I think awareness is definitely a part. Like I can easily speak about like manufacturing industries who really are years and years behind in getting there. We do have tech industries, at least treading this path, leading it, and at least thinking about it. But where we are right now, I guess we really cannot just walk the talk. I keep saying that. We need to run it. We need to run this talk. We need to be ahead of the game. In terms of what industries are leading, I do believe that automotive industry in general is trying to lead this concept. I mean, there are some latest articles that you might be reading. For example, BMW has released their new model wherein, they've realized why you could use, say, for example, minimum amount of glue. So you could actually make the disassembly of the parts easier. So not only thinking about bringing parts back, but also how do you improve the shelf life? How do you improve, how do you get your end of life components easier and then get it back and then, remanufacture? Same for, what I've read for other automotive industries too. So, their path towards electric cars is super fast forward compared to what we have been seeing in other industries. I guess also like sustainability has been a concept that has sat for a long time with the industries. I don't think circular economy was something as popular and made aware of what it is, how you can actually run a profitable business and maybe in fact reduce your cost while actually improving your service levels to your customers. So talking in that terms is very important for to industry, so they understand that it's not just a concept, but it is a reality, and every single step that you make towards it, big or small, will contribute to it. So definitely think automobile industry is leading here, but of course there are many other companies doing this. For example, Unilever, if not sure if you've heard about their nano factories, they actually put their nano factory in a container, which is super, super cool. Now they could actually put, like, it was some food container, so they could actually move that container and co-locate with their customers and manufacture. So imagine, like, you don't need forecast, you are not worried about your lead times, you already have your materials and you're manufacturing right there. Isn't it amazing? Imagine, being in a world like that.
Yeah, and it seems like we always, the buzzword of innovation is usually used with certain types of industries and certain types of, processes. But it seems like that is the definition of innovation, right? Taking a process, looking at how to break it down and how it can be done differently, right? To really deliver value immediately, right? That feels like there's so much happening on the back end that people aren't seeing, like the customers aren't experiencing, right? They're just experiencing either a better, if the prices are at least staying flat, they're not consistently raising. You're seeing about, like, the customers are not seeing the innovation that's happening on the back end though.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's also, but you would, I'm not sure you would agree that our customers have the awareness of our customers and the need or ask for better, sustainable products has increased over the years. And so customers are playing a role here, but of course, as industries, we need to step up this game.
Definitely. All right. So say you are a manufacturing company listening to this podcast right now. So hello out there. I hope you're there. And you are thinking, wow, like this feels like something I have to do, right? This feels like we know we're wasting a ton. Our supply chain is super linear. Where do they start? So what is step one? What is step two? Sort of like, where can you start this process before you get too much in the weeds?
Absolutely. So I actually, love, I think we discussed this before, the pre-show also, but I actually love giving companies an idea of how you could make this happen. And this is not across the roles that you have in supply chain. And it is not restricted to one person who is, say, leading your circular economy goal for your company, and it's not, the onus is not on just one person. And so I would love to walk through how each role in their own small ways could easily help making this happen. But before that, I do want to quickly touch base on a quick point. We at Circular Supply Chain Network are actually building a toolkit which actually gives companies live access to tools or effort or a process that they could look at and actually use it as a guidance to implement circular economy. And we talk about, if you go on our page, you would see that we talk about the transition model, and it's divided into phases, and how in each phase you could actually come in and each of there are total 7 phases, where the goal is we are designing out waste, we are circulating all the resources, and then we are aiming to regenerate natural systems. So the goal is that with every phase we give you tools that you could leverage and make this happen. But coming back to how a company can actually get started, and this is by vision, and this is the vision that our network is and our model and our founder talks about a lot, which is the supply chains of 2030. How each role can leverage it. So let's talk about the your procurement officer. They are concerned, your capex is going up. Of course, the budgets are cut because of the costs going up and everything. And how do you handle? And then why circular economy will come circular supply chain will come super handy for you is, if you think about nearshoring or reshoring, find your suppliers somewhere close to where you are located. So co-locating, if you join hands with those suppliers, you actually reduce your risk to be able to run short of your lead time or your materials, and at the same time also work together in either cutting your energy costs or maybe changing your processes or switching to renewable energies. Like things like that can actually help you reduce your cost, not only just in your materials, but overall in the process too. And of course, now you're looking into, hey, what are the materials that I need? So as procurement officers, right, today, our goal is to cut costs. How about we actually add a second goal where we actually need to find materials that are secondary? So looking for secondary sources should also be a part of your goal of your procurement team. And then you are naturally now promoting bringing those materials back in your supply chain, and they will be at lesser cost because they are already used materials, right? Just giving you an example from a procurement standpoint. There are multiple ways, like if you're an inventory manager, how would you reduce that, and then here comes your role in terms of understanding what your inventory right now is. You are super struggling with forecast because now you have enough of the wrong materials and less of the right materials, and you're always juggling that piece. And that's what you can avoid, because now you have suppliers who are closer to you, so you really do not need forecast. You do not need to rely on forecasts as much because your lead times are super short, and in turn your service levels to your customers are amazing. And so now you have to join hands with your procurement officers to make that happen, and then work very closely co-locating with your upstream supply chain and be able to deliver to those service levels. So now you are happy, your procurement officer is also happy, and your material costs are not really going up because you're also looking at reducing costs through your energy. You're cutting costs overall. The total landed costs have gone down because your logistics costs have gone down. These are like a couple roles that I can give you an example of. I mean, happy to run over many other roles, and I can keep talking on, and I don't want to bore the audience with that.
No, I think that's a really great takeaway there, is it's not that you want to bring in like an officer of circular supply chain, right? It really is, how can you work to build this into the KPIs of your current folks, right? Like you already have like a clear metric that you're going after in procurement. All you're doing is adding one additional metric that you're going to continue to look at that hopefully will create actually a better opportunity for the folks in inventory. It does feel like there's definitely a model there that is not necessarily bring in a new like C-suite person for this to be a big initiative, right? And I think that probably actually feels a lot more possible in the environment that we're in right now, is just to say, why don't we do some small tests to see? And I'm sure that the quick wins are probably going to feel really good for the folks that are working within the business already.
Absolutely. Like certain, our goals have been always tied to a process eventually, which is linear. Like I was talking about my goals as a procurement officer is mostly about cutting costs, but how about managing your risks also? How about managing getting secondary material? So making those tweaks in smaller roles can eventually get you there. It doesn't have to be, it's not rocket science. Like you still are using value stream mapping. It's just that now your waste is your secondary value stream. So thinking on those lines, creating awareness, and of course you need that vision coming top down, and your associates understand the concept and why are we doing it. It isn't something that is not possible. And in fact, McKinsey and I think McKinsey report says that we should be getting into this model, and most of our supply chain should be getting circular in another decade or 15 years.
So that's exactly, you read my mind. So that's exactly what I was going to ask, because you've kind of gotten to this a little bit, but I would love to hear, in your perspective, sort of what does the supply chain of 2030 look like?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, supply, as I said, like supply chains of 2030 is where your every single role that I mentioned about, whether you're a procurement officer, you're an inventory manager, you're a sustainability officer, you all are working together and all your goals are tied to make this whole circular supply chain happen while also executing on your business goals. So reducing your cost, adding your bottom line, increasing your sales, meeting your customer service levels, whatnot. You are able to run a profitable business while actually being better volunteers, better stewards of our environment and our materials. For me, there are certain points that I definitely want to touch at when it comes to supply chains of 2030 is the role of AI. Like how would AI come into play, and how would AI be a huge resource in not only finding the right materials, finding those secondary value streams, but also designing for circularity. Like AI today has artificial intelligence that has, and the machine learning models, they have the capability to analyze like thousands and thousands of data sets quickly and come up, with better designs that have more shelf life, better end of life materials, and be able to being able to design for circularity. It starts there. Like you don't always have to think about the waste and bringing it back, but if you start thinking about what I said, for example, BMW, they're already thinking about how to make the remanufacturing easier, how to make that whole disassembly faster so you could bring it back and use it again. There's so many components that we mean in the product that we manufacture that could easily be reused. So AI will definitely play a key role, but on the contrary, we have to be careful. Like what I have read is the energy that goes in to maintaining these AI, the servers that run AI is huge. And I know that there is a study that MIT is working on to see how we could reduce that energy usage to make AI powerful and still happen. I mean, it should not be counterproductive to what our circular supply chain talks about, right? So there has to be balanced. Definitely AI has lots to offer, and we could leverage a lot there. You touched about blockchain at some point, and I was just reading an article this morning. It's actually posted on our page on Circular Supply Chain Network, where the whole concept is being challenged because logistics costs are going down. We are not running any faster. There is no identification of materials, and this is why we need blockchain. We probably need blockchain to be able to identify where everything is. Can I bring them back? If I have better control of where my materials are, maybe I'll be in a better position to bring them back. Like giving you an example of HP, what they do with IoT today is if I have an HP printer, they would actually know when I'm running low on my ink. They'll make sure that they bring these cartridges back to their supply chain and ship me a new one. So now I have reduced my, dependency on customers to return it, who usually don't. Many people don't even know that this exists, right? So,
Right.
we need more and more such models, people to be aware and better stewards of whatever we own today in terms of inventory.
It does feel like there is so much capacity for all these new technologies, and it probably feels like a tidal wave. Like there is just so much capacity to continue to get more information, to get the right information to the right people. You were talking earlier about centralized databases, things like that, that are really going to make a huge impact on the ability to create a circular economy. So it does feel like the partnership of technology and these really manual industries feels like key to be able to make a lot of this really successful, which is probably not something that every single manufacturing organization is thinking about, but it will require them to the technology and the digital literacy to really understand how to utilize a lot of this new and really innovative technology.
Yes, no, absolutely. And I mean, it's also a responsibility. We industries cannot just work in silos. So the demand also needs to come from consumers. We join hands and we work towards a common goal. But industries and manufacturing organizations in themselves have to be better stewards of this. And I mean, it sounds crazy, but we predict that we will live in a world where you would not need forecast. Imagine how amazing. Forecast is the single most problem of our inventory that we sit on today, and obsolescence. If you didn't have to, if you co-located, if you nearshored, if your lead times went down, your upstream supply chain is happy, your downstream customers are happy. You don't need to forecast zillions of bill of materials and nodes in your supply chain, and you will not see obsolescence, which means you actually have reduced the pull on our planet, and you have made your customers happy as well. Like, better planning can lead to better outcomes, and they are sustainable, and you are actually contributing towards sustainability. Putting your production so close to the point of use that you don't need forecast anymore. I think it will happen. We believe it will happen.
It's amazing. I believe almost anything you say. So I am definitely that is a very cool visualization of what the future could look like. That's so interesting. So, all right, we're going to ask you the question that we ask everybody that comes on our show. So how would you define agility?
I love change. And for me, being agile is being able to embrace change. So be open to it, be open to change because it's coming. And make use of that opportunity to do something better. I'm always scared of people and industries who believe in this concept of, I have always done it this way. And we still find people there. And I'm sure COVID has changed a lot of that for us, because we are living in every hour of change. Every hour, every single hour that we live in, things are changing, news are coming, somebody, something, somewhere is stuck that is impacting supply chains. So for me, agility is being able to embrace that change, not stress out, and be able to, proactively manage it, be ready for it. There is no mechanism that would have made us ready for a pandemic like this, right? We did it. We found ways around it. We found how working from home could still be productive, while that wasn't even a concept for manufacturing industry specifically. But it happened. People did it. We navigated. We still are trying to, we are dealing with problems. But, being able to navigate that change quicker, faster, smarter, while minimizing your stress levels. That's exactly what I resonate with when you talk about agility to me.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a great answer. That combines a few that we've heard in the past around, the ability to be ready for change. I love your mitigation of stress levels that we haven't heard yet. Like, I love the idea that to be ready for change, because we are in a world where it's pretty much required, right? That's kind of why we started this podcast. We needed to change the way we created content. like because people were consuming content differently, right? So there's definitely always this opportunity to act on change, but I love the idea of also mitigating stress so that you can have a clear mind when you're going through that change to really think about what are the ways that I want to act and work differently. That's very cool. I love that. All right. So the final questions are really just about you. So really wondering how you are doing. Is there anything you're reading, watching, listening to lately that you think others would be interested in? People that you follow, anything like that?
Absolutely. So what I am doing is absolutely creating content. I have some alerts set up with my computer wherein every day I get my feed on circular news, latest companies, latest news on circular supply chains, who is doing what. And you would actually get a lot of that on our page, which is Circular Supply Chain Network on LinkedIn. Find us, follow us. I would highly recommend you if you like this hearing us today, you would love following us because there's some cool news, and that actually will also help build your confidence into when you see other industries doing something in this direction. And it is not rocket science. It isn't something that's restricted to books. This is reality. Companies are doing it. What I'm reading, yes, I'm reading articles every single day, learning more about what industries are doing, posting, commenting. You could find me on LinkedIn. Feel free to follow me. Would love to connect with anyone who are supply chain and circular nerds out here. Follow my founder, Deborah Dahl. She's amazing, super cool, a real nomad. Travels around the world almost every month. So super inspirational. You can learn a lot from her page also. But would love to connect with everyone listening here. And as I said, embrace change. If we come out of our comfort levels and in our head are ready for change, it wouldn't stress us out. If you know change is coming, it wouldn't stress you out.
Love it. This has been awesome. Sneha, thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure to get to talk to you. And to all of our listeners, watchers out there, make sure to like and subscribe. You can find us on anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts, as well as our YouTube channel and quickbase.com/podcast. And we look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.